The slap strung like fire across my cheek, and I stood there on our porch, hand pressed to my skin, shaking as this so-called HOA enforcer loomed over me with that smug look, like he owned the place. In that split second, I knew things were about to explode, because my husband was just around the corner, and this fake authority figure was seconds away from learning what happens when you lay hands on the wrong woman. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll see exactly how to spot and shut down these power-tripping imposters before they escalate to violence. Before I pull you deeper into the chaos, let me tease what's coming. This isn't just a story about one bad day. It's a full breakdown of how a neighborhood bully operation unraveled, complete with arrests, lawsuits, and the sweet taste of justice that left everyone involved regretting they ever crossed our path. I'm Alina, a graphic designer who works from home, and my husband's name is Victor. He's a former mechanic with hands like steel from years of fixing heavy machinery. This all went down in our quiet suburban neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona, back in 2023. We'd moved there seeking peace after years in the city, but what we found was a homeowners association that ruled like a mini dictatorship. The letters started pouring in almost immediately, nitpicky complaints about our mailbox being slightly off-center, our driveway having a tiny oil stain from Victor's old truck, even our curtains not matching the approved aesthetic. We tried to ignore it at first, chuckling over coffee about how these people had nothing better to do. But then the visits began, turning our dream home into a nightmare we never saw coming. Before we dive deeper into how this escalated, if you believe people like these entitled HOA tyrants, let's call them Susans, since that's what their ringleader went by, shouldn't exist or deserve to be taken down a peg, hit that subscribe button right now. My channel delivers daily stories of overreaching Karens and Susans getting their comeuppance, stories that expose the truth, change perspectives, and leave you feeling utterly satisfied. Don't forget to like and comment too. Tell me if you've ever dealt with an HOA horror of your own. The antagonist in this tale showed up like a bad omen on a sunny afternoon. I was in the kitchen, sipping tea and sketching a new design, when I heard the heavy knock at the door. Peeking through the peephole, I saw him, a man in a crisp black vest emblazoned with HOA compliance enforcement in bold letters, standing there with arms crossed, sunglasses perched on his head like he was some kind of official. His name, as we'd later learn, was Derek, but at that moment he was just this imposing figure demanding entry. "Ma'am, open up, routine inspection," he barked, his voice carrying that false edge of authority. I cracked the door just enough to speak. "We didn't schedule anything. Who are you exactly?" He flashed a laminated card too quickly for me to read, muttering about HOA bylaws giving him the right to check for violations inside the home. Inside, that set off alarms in my head. HOAs might fuss over lawns, but entering private property? No way. I politely told him to leave, but he lingered, tapping his foot, staring me down as if trying to intimidate me into compliance. Little did I know this was just his opening act. He'd be back, each time bolder, each time pushing the boundaries further. The inciting incident hit like a storm on what should have been a peaceful morning. Victor was out in the garage, tinkering with his tools as he often did to unwind, and I stepped onto the porch to water our potted flowers, simple red geraniums that brought a pop of colour to our entryway. That's when Derek appeared again, striding up our walkway like he owned it, vest buttoned tight, a clipboard in hand this time for added effect. "Mrs. Alina, this is your final warning. Non-compliance with inspection protocols will result in severe fines," he declared, his tone dripping with condescension. I felt my heart race. We'd already called the real HOA office twice to complain about his previous visits, and they'd claimed no knowledge of any enforcer. I stood my ground. "You're not coming in, we've reported you. Leave now." His face twisted in anger, eyes narrowing. He stepped closer, invading my space, and when I raised my hand to gesture him back, he grabbed my wrist roughly. "Don't touch me," I yelped, pulling away. But he didn't stop. He swung his open palm hard, connecting with my cheek in a sharp, echoing slap that sent stars bursting behind my eyes. The pain was immediate, hot and throbbing, and I staggered back, clutching my face as tears welled up unbidden. In that moment, fear mixed with rage. This stranger had violated our home, our safety, and now my body. Multiple obstacles piled on, neighbours peeking from windows but not intervening, Derek blocking the door as if to push past me, and the sickening realization that Victor might not hear over the garage noise. My emotions peaked, a whirlwind of shock, humiliation, and terror as I screamed for help, my voice cracking in the still air. Rising action phase 1, the escalating harassment. This phase started subtly but built like a gathering storm, turning our daily life into a siege. After that first visit, Derek returned every few days, each time with new tactics to wear us down. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he banged on the door so loudly it rattled the windows, shouting about unauthorized modifications to our backyard shed, something we'd never touched. I called Victor from work, my voice trembling as I described how Derek had peered through our side gate, snapping photos with his phone. Victor rushed home, but by then Derek was gone, leaving only a violation notice slipped under the door demanding a $500 fine for obstruction. We laughed it off nervously at first, but the incidents multiplied. Another time, early in the morning while I was still in my robe, he tapped on the bedroom window, startling me awake with claims of needing to inspect our attic for code violations. I yelled for him to go away, heart pounding, but he lingered in the yard, packing like a predator. We started documenting everything, photos, timestamps, even a quick video on my phone of him lurking. But the HOA office stonewalled us, saying they had no record of such an enforcer, yet the visits continued. Tensions rose at home too. Victor and I argued about whether to involve the police early, me worried about escalating, him furious at the intrusion. One particularly bad day, Derek showed up while I was alone with our dog, a sweet lab named Max, and he tried kicking at the fence to scare Max into barking, claiming noise violations. I confronted him from the porch, phone in hand recording, but he just smirked and said, "Evidence won't help if you're evicted." The phase peaked with a late-night incident where he left a threatening note on our car, "Comply or face consequences." Sleep became elusive, every creak in the house making me jump, the constant dread wearing us thin. Rising action phase 2, unmasking the deception. As the harassment intensified, we dug deeper, uncovering layers of deceit that fueled our determination. Victor took time off work to stake out the neighborhood, noticing Derek's car, a beat-up sedan with no official markings, parked near the HOA president's house, a prim two-story owned by Susan, the board's iron-fisted leader. We attended our first HOA meeting, a stuffy gathering in the community center where Susan presided like a queen, dismissing complaints with a wave of her manicured hand. When I stood up and described Derek's visits, she feigned ignorance, but her eyes flickered with recognition. "We don't employ enforcers," she claimed, but the crowd murmured, sharing stories of similar intimidations, fines for invisible infractions, demands for entry that felt illegal. Back home, we researched online, learning that true HOAs can't force home inspections without court orders, and Derek's tactics screamed fraud. Incidents piled on. One afternoon, he cornered our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patel, demanding to check her garage for prohibited storage, leaving her in tears. We rallied a few allies, collecting statements, but Derek retaliated by slashing our tires overnight, caught on our newly installed camera, his face clear in the moonlight. Victor confronted Susan directly at her door, demanding answers, but she slammed it in his face, yelling about lawsuits for slander. The deception unraveled further when we found online forums buzzing with similar stories. Fake enforcers hired off shady sites to bully residents into paying inflated fees. Emotions ran high. I felt violated, exposed, while Victor's protective instinct simmered, his fists clenching at every new revelation. This phase ended with a chilling call from an anonymous board member, warning us to back off or things would get physical, pushing us to the brink. Rising action phase 3, building alliances and mounting pressure. With the truth emerging, we shifted from defense to offense, forging bonds that turned isolated fear into collective power. I started a neighborhood group chat, sharing our evidence, and responses flooded in, dozens of stories mirroring ours. Derek harassing a single mom over her kids' toys in the yard, fining a veteran for his flagpole being too prominent. We organized a secret meeting in our backyard, under string lights as dusk fell, where 10 families gathered, voices hushed but resolute. Mrs. Patel brought photos of her own encounters, while a young couple from down the street revealed Derek had tried breaking their lockbox. Incidents escalated. One night he vandalized a communal park bench, blaming it on non-compliant residents, sparking outrage. Victor and I filed a formal complaint with the city, attaching videos and notes, but bureaucracy moved slowly, frustrating us. Derek, sensing the tide turning, amped up his aggression, banging on doors at odd hours, leaving voicemails with veiled threats like accidents happen to those who resist. We installed more cameras, motion lights flooding the yard, turning our home into a fortress. Alliances strengthened when a local reporter, tipped off by a neighbor, contacted us for an interview, We hesitated but agreed, providing anonymous quotes that hinted at the scandal. Tensions peaked during a confrontation at the grocery store, where Derek spotted me and followed me through aisles, whispering, "You'll regret this." I hurried home, heart racing, telling Victor, who nearly stormed out to find him. This phase built our resolve, transforming victims into warriors, but the constant vigilance exhausted us, sleep interrupted by every shadow. Rising action phase 4, the breaking point approaches. As pressure mounted, cracks appeared in the HOA's facade, but Derek's desperation made him more dangerous. We discovered forged documents, fake authorization letters on HOA letterhead, signed by Susan, granting Derek entry rights that didn't exist. Victor confronted a board member at work, a timid accountant named Phil who cracked under questioning, admitting the board hired Derek off Craigslist to enforce compliance and boost fine revenue for personal perks like vacations. Incidents multiplied. Derek keyed cars of group chat members, slashed garden hoses, even poisoned a community's flowerbed with weed killer. We held another meeting, this time bolder, with printed evidence packets, rallying more neighbors, now 20 strong. But retaliation hit hard. Our power flickered one night, wires tampered with, leaving us in darkness as thunder rolled in. I clung to Victor, fear gripping me, while Max barked furiously. The next day, Derek showed up at our door again, pounding relentlessly, screaming about final inspections. We called the police non-emergency line, but they dismissed it as a civil matter. Emotions boiled, my anxiety spiked, Victor's anger a constant undercurrent. This phase culminated in a heated board meeting where we presented our dossier publicly. Susan denied everything, but the crowd booed, demanding audits. Derek lurked outside, glaring through windows, his presence a ticking bomb ready to detonate. Rising action phase 5, allies turn the tide. With momentum building, our alliances expanded beyond the neighborhood, drawing in external forces that amplified the pressure. A lawyer friend reviewed our evidence pro bono, confirming grounds for a class action lawsuit against the HOA for fraud and harassment. We circulated petitions, gathering signatures door to door under the hot Arizona sun, stories pouring out. Derek's intimidation tactics had driven one family to sell their home at a loss. Incidents continued. He egged houses of vocal opponents, left dead rats on porches as warnings. But our group fought back, installing shared security cams, patrolling in pairs. A breakthrough came when the reporter published an exposé in the local paper, naming Susan and Derek, sparking calls from city officials. Derek's visits grew erratic. One afternoon he accosted me in the park while walking Max, grabbing my arm and hissing, "Drop this or else." I yanked free, screaming, drawing a crowd that chased him off. Victor was livid, packing the house that night, vowing protection. This phase heightened the stakes, with anonymous tips revealing Derek's criminal record, prior assaults, impersonation charges. We filed restraining orders, but delays frustrated us. Emotions peaked in a community rally outside Susan's home, chants echoing as police observed, the air thick with impending reckoning. Rising action phase 6, the inevitable collision. As exposure loomed, Derek and the board doubled down, their actions frantic and reckless, setting the stage for the final clash. Susan held an emergency board meeting, excluding dissenters, but leaks revealed plans to discredit us, fabricated complaints about our disruptive behavior. Incidents ramped up. Derek slashed all 4 tires on Victor's truck, leaving a note, "Last chance." We reported it, fingerprints linking him, but he vanished for days, only to resurface tampering with mailboxes, stealing mail to gather evidence. Our lawyer pushed for expedited hearings, while neighbors boycotted HOA dues, starving their funds. One stormy evening, Derek cornered Phil, the accountant, forcing a false statement recanting his confession, caught on tape by a hidden cam. Victor and I argued fiercely. I wanted to move, but he insisted on fighting. The phase built to a fever pitch, with Derek's boldest move yet, forging a court order for entry, waving it at doors, fooling some into compliance. We debunked it publicly online, our neighborhood forum exploding with outrage. Tensions were electric, every day a step closer to confrontation, my nerves frayed, Victor's protectiveness a shield against the encroaching threat. Climax the confrontation. That fateful morning, everything collided in a blur of rage and retribution. I was on the porch watering plants when Derek stormed up, face twisted in fury. "This ends now, open the door," he bellowed. I refused, voice steady despite my pounding heart. He lunged, slapping me hard, the impact sending me reeling. "Don't touch me," I cried, but he shoved toward the door. Victor burst from the garage, eyes blazing. He grabbed Derek's vest, slamming him against the post with a crack that echoed. "You hit my wife," Victor growled, twisting Derek's arm until it snapped sharply. Derek screamed, collapsing, but Victor wasn't done, seizing the other arm, bending it back with a louder crack, Derek's pleas turning to whimpers. Neighbors emerged, phones out, gasps filling the air as Victor stood over the broken man, adrenaline surging. The board arrived, panicking, but Victor held firm, the confrontation a raw blow-by-blow explosion of pent-up justice. Resolution, legal outcomes. Sirens wailed as police arrived, assessing the scene, my bruised cheek, Derek's mangled arms, the board's frantic denials. We showed the ring footage, clear evidence of the assault. Officers unmasked Derek's vest as cheap knockoff, no credentials. He confessed under pressure, hired by Susan to intimidate, forge docs, collect illicit fines. The board was cuffed, fraud, conspiracy, assault charges stacking high. Susan wailed as they led her away, her empire crumbling. Derek faced surgery, then court. 8 years prison for impersonation, battery, extortion, plus $30,000 restitution. The HOA dissolved amid audits revealing embezzlement. Class action suits awarded victims thousands, Susan bankrupt and disgraced. Resolution, personal victories. In the aftermath, Victor and I grew closer, our bond forged in fire. I started therapy for the trauma, emerging stronger, channeling energy into community advocacy. Victor quit his job to start a home security business, helping others fortify against intruders. Neighbors thanked us, hosting barbecues where stories flowed freely, turning isolation into camaraderie. We renovated our home freely, no more nitpicks, our geraniums blooming brighter. The victory wasn't just legal, it was reclaiming our peace, proving that standing up transforms victims into heroes. Epilogue, today life is serene, mornings with coffee on the porch, Max at our feet, no shadows lurking. We've moved past the fear, cherishing the quiet we fought for. If another Derek appears, we're armed with knowledge and unity, ready to defend. What do you think? Was Victor's response justified, or would you have handled it differently if someone slapped your loved one? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this story, and subscribe for more tales of triumph over tyrants. Let's build a community that calls out injustice. Your story could be next. At 7:14 in the morning, my security cameras didn't just ping, they screamed. 5 alerts, 5 angles, 1 truth. I was looking at a formation I hadn't seen since overseas. HOA guards, fake engineers, armed